Amanda. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I
Welcome to.
am good for a variety of reasons, but it's office hours. We're here. We're here answering questions and talking with the community, and I am so happy to be here.
Thanks. We're happy to have you here, Jeff. Welcome, everybody. It's Alexa Developer Office Hours. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it, but this is Jeff's last show.
This is my last show. I don't want that to be a surprise to anyone. We announced it a few weeks ago, but today is my last episode of Office Hours, and I am so glad that I've had a chance to be here and share and talk and listen to all of you. And I hope that we'll still have the opportunity to communicate on all the different social media platforms and the community Slack and everywhere else. I'm not vanishing from the world, but I am leaving Amazon, and so I don't think they're going to let me do the show anymore. With that, should we get into some announcements?
Yeah, sure thing. And Brian Tobach says we're reversed and you should be on the left. I think it's just whoever signs in first. Is that
it's how you add the cameras. So you click on you first and then me, and that's fine.
Okay.
This is right. Amanda's in charge. Let's let her run with it.
All right.
But we do have a couple of announcements I want to make sure you're all aware of. The first one is there's another Tech Talk coming up. It's in about 2 weeks. I think it's in 15 days. And it is all about the Alexa Design Guide. If you haven't spent any time playing with or reading the Alexa Design Guide, it's an incredible resource for thinking about how to build for voice. And it translates not to just Alexa skills, but anything that you're doing with voice or voice interaction. It's really, really good. And so it's going to be a conversation between our good friend Helen Hasboon, as well as Allison Atwell, who is one of our voice designers here on the team, and absolutely one of my favorite people at Amazon. And so the two of them are going to chat about voice design, and you can get all signed up. I think we probably just dropped the link in the chat.
I did drop the link in the chat for you. Click on that link. You can sign up.
Even though I won't be here, I'm definitely tuning in for that one. I think it's going to be good.
Be very good. I want to make an announcement that we have officially posted our list of the new Alexa champions. We have chosen 17 folks to be the new Alexa champions for 2023. Really excited. Today on the call, we have one of our veteran Alexa champions. So if you're not familiar with the Alexa Champions program, I hope you are, because you've been sitting out and hanging out here, and we have some champions in chat as well. But please take a look at the blog post. We were really excited to share this, and I was really excited to be part of this program. So congratulations to everybody. And we're going to be excited to work with everybody in the future for the rest of the year, for the rest of what we're working on with Alexa.
Yep. Another thing I want to talk about is a new blog post that just came out right at the end of the month, so about a week ago, all about a company called Smart Voice Studio. And they wrote an article with our team all about in-skill purchasing and how they built their business on Alexa. And so I think this is a really interesting read. There's some good insights in there, some really good tips. If you're thinking about building your own business on something like Alexa, so please check that out. I think you'll really enjoy that read.
Mm-hmm. My final announcement is, if you watch us on YouTube, maybe you watch us on Twitch, which is fine. That's probably where I would be watching if I wasn't on the show. But if you watch us on YouTube, you know we have a YouTube channel. If you've ever watched our VODs, you know we have a YouTube channel. Coming soon on our YouTube channel, we're going to have a new series. We're calling it Devs and Coffee. I am a big coffee drinker. This is my E-Tank coffee right now. And not everybody drinks coffee, but the idea is to have a quick coffee chat with a couple of our successful Alexa developers, many of whom are also Alexa champions. So it's just a great way to profile some other developers that you may have not heard from. Honestly, we just have so many great developers that it's tough to get everybody on office hours all the time. And we also wanted to have like some really quick, snappy little formatted stuff to like just a quick interview. It's very casual. It's very friendly at talking to people about their work with Alexa. So that's going to be starting next Thursday with our first interview on there. And you might see some of me on some of those. So just check it out when you get a chance. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube, be sure you subscribe to the YouTube and you check that out when it comes out.
We had to wait until I departed to start a show like this, because if I was involved in any way, I would have had to call it Devs and Red Bull. Because coffee is just not my thing. But I'm excited for this, Amanda. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do.
It's going to be really fun. Well, let's get on to today's guest. Today on our show, we have Alexa champion Mark Tucker. I'm going to bring you onto the camera. Mark, how you doing today?
Hey, Amanda. Hey, Jeff. It's good to be here today.
Good to have you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Yeah.
So you want to go ahead and get started with the chat? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, wow. I've been doing software development for 30 plus years. Believe it or not, I turned 54 this year.
Wow.
But I've been hands-on in tech for a long time. I love learning new things. I was excited when I came across Alexa. I think it's been like 7 years ago now that I realized it was a thing that you could program for, and I've just really enjoyed learning about technology, and especially about voice. So I currently work at Rain, and I am the senior technical director there, where I handle a lot of our services work and work with my team. So I get to do hands-on stuff. I get to mentor. Lots of fun stuff.
And how long have you been an Alexa champion?
So 2016, so fall of 2016 is when I kind of discovered that Alexa existed, and I started reading up on it. This was Alexa Skills Kit version 1. Um, Jeff, I think back at the time there were probably 3,000, maybe 4,000 skills in the skills store.
Yeah, I actually have a T-shirt still that we gave out to a lot of people. You may still have this one as well. It was given to anybody that built one of the first 1,000 skills. And it
So
had
I came just after that,
Oh,
but
okay.
but yeah, so it was early on. So I kind of just jumped in, started figuring it out. I live in Arizona, created the Phoenix Alexa meetup, just a number of different things. In 2016 was kind of my year of ramping up on voice and Alexa specifically, and I was selected in 2017 as an Alexa champion. So I think I was in the second class of Alexa champions, and just have kind of not looked back since.
So I have another question about your job. I mean, you said you're at the Rain agency, right? Which is
Yep.
a marketing technology company. I would imagine you're pretty involved in any of the Alexa skills or voice work that's happening there. But do you, as in your role, do you focus on things that are broader than that?
Yes, yeah. Anything that's voice technology or AI related are things that I get involved with. So
Nice.
I work with our customers. I work with partner relationships, technical feasibility, proofs of concepts, and then actual implementations. So it could be Alexa, it could be other voice, it could be a custom assistant. So there's lots of
Nice.
different things that we can do.
Versatile. I like it.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of open source work. So has that affected your Alexa development?
It has actually, and that's kind of like one of the first things when I was learning about Alexa. One of the first things I created was a serverless framework template for how to deploy Alexa skill on Lambda with S3 and other things. So I kind of started doing open source almost from the very beginning of when I was doing voice. I've contributed a lot to Jovo framework, which is another approach, a framework for creating voice assistants and chatbots. So I've contributed quite a bit to that, and financially contributed as well. And plus, I've created my own open source project. So I try to get new ideas out there and share them on GitHub.
Yeah, I think I have a link for your Jovo contributions. I'm going to go ahead and post that in the chat for folks who are interested.
Thanks.
Want to learn more about Jovo. I'm on GitHub, but although my sometimes I go on a tear and program a lot, and you'll see a lot of green, and then I'll take a short break, and then I'll go on a tear and program a lot. So kind of
Yeah, that happens.
yeah. I get in the zone. I get focused on something.
Yeah, one of the fun things about Jovo is its ability to create plugins. And so in order to just kind of fit into this framework, your request comes in, and there's this whole step where it can select which platform, whether it be Alexa or some other platform that this request maps to, and then it goes through this pipeline where you can do ASR on the server, you can do NLU on the server, and then different logic. So I have different plugins. It could be like plugging in Poly for your TTS if you're doing a custom assistant. So I created that, but I also have some different components that you can use. I like to do games on Alexa, and so I've got one where you can use PlayFab for your character, kind of your leaderboards and character stuff. Badgerific allows you to do achievements. I've got things for streaks. I've got things for just different components and plugins that you can use to help create games for your voice assistants.
Cool. Is any of that using the web API as well?
No, it's not.
That's all you do.
I focus mostly on Alexa presentation language, APL.
Mhm.
In fact, back in 2017 was when the precursor to APL came out, display templates. And so I created a game called Picture Guesser that used these, I think it was like 11 different JSON templates to do one of those tile tapping, tile removing games to reveal the picture and guess what it was. And I've since redone that, because at that time you couldn't actually tap. And so I've redone that for APL. I've included in-skill purchasing to buy puzzles. So it's just kind of been a project that's evolved with me as I've gone through the years.
I remember when you launched that very early on. I mean, you were pushing the limits of what you could do with display templates for sure.
Yeah, we had to do some server-side processing to do like an SVG that then turned into an image and kind of cached that on the server, because all you could do was work with images. You couldn't do dynamic image creation. So I had to kind of to do something special on the server to handle that.
Nice.
That sounds like you were really trying to find out where the limitations of the programming were. I guess APL does make it a little bit easier, huh?
Oh, APL makes it a lot easier, though there has been a learning curve. I've spent a lot of time at first it didn't make sense, and I've kind of hit a couple of times where I've tried to do it, and so finally it's kind of stuck. But there's a lot to learn about APL, and partly to help myself learn it, I created a video series in conjunction with Dabble Labs to get people kind of from zero to after the 15 sessions are done, you should understand at least all the different basic components and kind of how they work. It's not comprehensive, but kind of pairing that with the material that's already available from Amazon. They've gotten a lot of good material just recently over the last year or so on APL. So together, I think that would be a great way for people to learn APL.
I just put a link in the chat for that too, to your training courses on APL Ninja. So if anybody wants to click and learn more APL, great place to start. Check that out.
Yep. And another champion, Brian Tarbox, is in the chat, and he just mentioned that Mark's training courses are amazing. I will concur. Mark, I've learned things from you for sure, and so I'm very thankful for the time and the energy you put into all that content.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. And that's partly. So sometimes I go into it not necessarily understanding something myself, and like, okay, if I do this video and really kind of push it and work through it myself, then it's going to be easier for other people that are coming behind.
Yep.
And so that's I like pushing the edge on things. I like trying to understand it, and then I like making content that will help other people understand it better too.
That's my philosophy with a lot of this technology too, is that you don't really feel like you understand it until you can teach it to someone else.
Yeah.
And doing that kind of work where you're framing it up in a way that makes it easy for people to digest and understand really helps you as the individual understand the content even better.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So speaking of APL, one of the things we have you on here to talk about today is widgets. You've been doing a lot in the widget development. Do you want to talk about your process for widgets, what tools you use, and what kind of widgets you've made?
Yes, so widgets have been fun. It's been one of those things that it's been a couple of years since it was on an Alexa Live that it mentioned that it existed, and I was like, oh, I really want to be able to be part of that. And so I think it was October, November last year, I finally got access to the kind of pre-release version of it. And like I do with so many things, I just wanted to push the envelope and kind of try to figure it out. A great tool to use with widgets is APL Ninja. Alexander Martin has done a great job with that tool. And widgets are really just APL, primarily. But there's lots of fun things that you can do inside of a widget. And that's kind of what I wanted to explore with some of the different things. Like, what if you had a widget and that was the experience? It wasn't necessarily, widgets are great for getting you into a skill. And I totally accept that. And I think that's a great way. But I kind of wanted to explore, what if I just had a widget that I wanted to interact with, and that was as much as I wanted to do? And so one of the first things I created was a kind of a word clock. So instead of showing you what time it was, it would, as far as like a clock dial or digits, it would spell that out in just a list of words, and different words would highlight based on what time it was. So that was the very first one I did, and that required me to not necessarily do anything on the back end as far as a skill other than install and uninstall the widget. And then I thought, well, what else would be fun to do? So I thought a magic 8-ball, that would be great. You could just tap the magic 8-ball, it would shake. And so I wanted to kind of explore animation in a widget. And that's turned out to be one of the most popular ones. But I've done a coin flip. I've done an advent calendar around Christmas time. So it's a countdown, and you can choose a couple of different themes as far as the calendar. And as the day counts down, then that day is revealed, and you get to see a new image for your countdown. And we'll talk about busy timers. Busy timers is a little bit more advanced, but that's the kind of things that I've done. So of the main 7 widgets that I've created, 6 of them have been mostly out since November, and have a total install base of currently 50,000 people are currently have those widgets installed on their devices. As far as the Magic 8-Ball, 30,000 installs, and I think, let's see, I just checked out the new stats today. Tapping it to shake the Magic 8-Ball has happened 376,000 times.
Wow.
So, I'm gonna install that right after this. That sounds like a lot of fun. I need to get my fortune from the Magic 8-Ball. The Advent calendar sounds fun too, though. I imagine that's really cool for families to be able to count down to Christmas.
Yeah, and one of the things that I kind of had in mind with that was so a little bit more interactivity. It uses a pager to show the different days. There is a settings page where you can kind of configure it. But one of the things I'm playing around with is, maybe by next Christmas I might have it so when this skill opens up and you can actually do an in-skill purchase and pick from various different themes to purchase, other than the main 2 ones that you get for free. Then maybe there's going to be some other themes that you could pick. So that's one of the things that I might explore, is then actually having that widget drive an in-skill purchasing experience.
Cool. Question in the YouTube chat. I don't see any mention of large widgets in the documentation. Is that something that is available to the public? I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head. I think there's different sizes of widgets.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't recall anything from the documentation that developers have access to large widgets. They just have kind of the standard size widget, one slot.
I think you just get the slot, which is still great, because you're right there on the Echo Show for anybody who has that screen device. It's something to go over there and tap it.
Yep.
Yeah, one of the things. So I want to talk about kind of my most recent widget called Busy Timers. So the idea with Busy Timers is I have an Echo Show 15 in my office here. We have one out kind of in the general family area, and I'm on lots of different meetings. And when's a good time to interrupt me? Am I not in a meeting anymore, but I've forgotten to open my door? So people are wondering, well, can we talk to you yet or not? So I created Busy Timers where you can add a slot and say, I'm going to be busy for the next hour, and you can give it a name, and you could either give like a person's name, a location, or it could even be, if you're out on the go and you talk to your Alexa device and say, hey, I'm shopping for the next 30 minutes. Then what it does on Busy Timers, it shows you a list of all those notices. It's kind of like a sticky note or a Postit note with a countdown timer. So once the countdown timer hits 0, it just disappears from the list. So like if you're like, hey, I'm going to be gone for the next 30 minutes and nobody sees it, then it just automatically deletes and goes away. But if not, you can see a list of what people are doing, or if a room is reserved for a specific purpose, and you can get to choose an emoji that goes along with your entry as well.
Cool. So what's your favorite tools to use to develop this stuff?
All my development I do on skills is Jovo version 3, and partly I get to do that because I get to use all the different plugins that I've created or other people have contributed. So I use Jovo. I do use APL Ninja, and the way I start is I actually just start in APL Ninja, designing the different screens. And kind of work through that. APL Ninja is great. Actually, there's features that if you added a widget data source to your APL code, it actually enables a new tab where you can send your different widget commands. So you can initialize it with your create your namespace or putting in an object, and so you can kind of actually play with some interactivity right there with APL Ninja. And then once I kind of get that fleshed out, then I actually move it into code and move it into the Alexa developer console and send it down to the device and work on it on the device after that.
Cool. Comment in the chat. That sure beats my red and green construction paper I have taped to my office door.
And that's exactly how it happened. I had Postit notes that had like, in a meeting, or I had like one that was in a meeting with a camera. So it's like, I'm like, poke your head in at your own risk because I'm on camera, right? And so I would just open up the door and put that sticky note on the door and close it. And so that's exactly why I created busy timers.
Perfect.
I think that's a really good solution to that problem. I've had the good fortune of working from home since 2007, and I've yet to find a really reliable solution to this problem. I've looked for, like, I've had all sorts of little devices and like this thing, and there's a few others that are like small digital screens, and I wanted to find a way to like mount it outside of my office door and do like a radio studio would have, right? Like we're
on air.
Right?
Yeah.
And only just recently, in the last, I would say 3 months, I've seen some companies that are now starting to develop this, where you have a Bluetooth button that just sits at your desk, or it can even plug into your laptop and recognize when you're using one of the video streaming apps, and it will automatically flip that light on for you. That's something I want, is that automated.
Oh yeah.
Because otherwise I just forget, or I'll forget to put the piece of paper up, and my kids will walk in or whatever, and it's not as big a deal now. Getting my son's attention at 15 is impossible. So I'm not too worried about him coming to find me. But when he was 4 or 5, it was a much bigger deal.
It's funny. I actually set up an Alexa routine to remind it to turn on my on-air light whenever I'm on air, but I'm just realizing that I forgot to do that this morning, but that's okay. I think I'll be fine. But I also use Alexa to warn folks when I'm live. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same kind of problem. I think everybody who has any kind of like work from home or online like live stream or anything like that needs to have some way to like warn people not to interrupt them when they're on the phone, right?
Yep.
Right. It's like, no, I'm really busy right now. So
leave for a little while.
That being said, when people's families or animals have interrupted calls that I've been on, it was the best part of the call. So I don't know why everybody's so afraid to let that happen. I think it's
I always enjoy seeing like a cat.
The best part of the day, yeah.
The screen.
Yeah.
I'm seeing Karthik in the chat on YouTube saying, huge fan of Pixel Artist and what you've built on widgets. Awesome. And please tell me more about Pixel Artist. I love pixel art.
Yeah, so Pixel Artist was pretty ambitious. And so the idea is that you have a grid of just spaces, and you can turn pixels different colors. And so this is just a widget that you can just create some little pixel art and have that take up a slot on your kind of widgets panel. And I've done different things where you can kind of lock it, because there's an ability to slide, and you can change like the different color and different things of the pixels, but then maybe you want to lock it in so that it doesn't accidentally get get changed. And so just kind of working through that dynamics with all inside of a widget. This is all of the widgets that I have so far, except for busy timers, doesn't really do anything as far as a skill. It doesn't launch the skill at all. It does everything in the widget. So one of the techniques that I use is a pager. And sometimes the pager, you can go through and all the different, you can navigate the different pages of the pagers. And sometimes a page is a settings page, and sometimes a page is the actual canvas page or something. Or sometimes you can turn it off so that you can't really, those different pages in the pager are different screens. And if you hit a button, then all it's doing is navigating to that page in the pager. So that's kind of a little trick that I use for creating widgets, is just use a pager, and every page is a different screen, and then just navigate between that. So I get all that functionality, kind of that interactivity working in APL Ninja, and then I can actually tie it to real things behind the scenes.
page reminds me like of the old HyperCard days. I know I'm showing my age, but
Oh yeah,
remember you used to make
HyperCards.
a HyperCard where you would click from page to page, and it would.
Yeah.
I guess some things haven't changed, and some things are very different, and some things aren't.
Yeah, that raises a question for me, Mark. As we think about your development process, what I'm getting from what you've said so far is that it sounds like you do your development at APL Ninja. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yeah, I do. Most of it's there. One of the nice things is that when you do a send event, to send something from APL to the back end, and you can do that with widgets. You can do either that inline, which is just going to send that to the back end, but not actually launch the skill, or you can do it as a standard. The way that APL Ninja handles that is it does a little pop-up bubble, and you get to see what the contents is. You get to see what's in the event and any of the argument payloads and things like that. So that's partly what I do as well, is I just pepper it with some send events, even though I may not necessarily need it, but that I can see what the interactivity is.
Got it.
And there's also some more advanced stuff that Alexander has dreamed up with something he calls mocks, where you can interact with an event on APL Ninja, and then you can have that actually do something, but it's all happening client side. So you could even test some of the interactivity parts of it without actually being connected or in a device. And that just gives me the ability to work through things quickly. I can switch to different versions. Like I flip through the 4 different possible versions of a widget screen to see how the layout works in each of those. So it just gives me the ability to do things a lot faster.
Neat.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't considered. I use APL Ninja quite often to like start from something, but then I find myself moving into some local development thing, or I test it on a device or in the simulator. But I think that's actually a really good strategy. I hadn't considered like just doing my primary development there. And I can see how that would be really very useful.
Lets you iterate a lot faster.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. It's been a good for me. And not, I'm not saying anything bad about the tools. Partly is that APL Ninja, I think, progressed a little bit faster than some of the APL console tools. And so then I just started getting used to using it. It was partly it. But
that really is the power, I think, of our community and of the people that have like gone above and beyond to make cool stuff for Alexa. It's not just about what we do here. It's about what all y'all outside of Amazon do to make development easier and better for other people. And, having these extra widgets being added by third-party developers is just really part of how to make Alexa better and more awesome, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about the voice community in general, and people I've met that have been doing Alexa development. It's just great group of people. Just kind of a shout out moment here. Amanda, I appreciate what you're doing most recently with the Alexa Champions and the different things that you're contributing. Jeff's had a stint doing that in the past, plus all the other developer evangelist stuff. So just it's good to have friends like you that you feel like you're actually kind of working together on things, and so I do appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
I mean, I wouldn't be here without the third-party developer community. It's just the most important thing to me, to support what everybody else is making and how we can. I don't want to sales pitch too much, but we're just sharing the love. In the chat, I got a couple comments. Habuma suggesting an echo button, setting your busy status, reflecting that status on a widget. Interesting.
Yeah, the way that Habuma wrote that, I get the feeling he's going to try and figure out how to build that. That would be a very cool exercise to go through.
Hello from the road to Disneyland. Wow, you're dedicated to be visiting us if you're on the road to Disneyland. Thank you for stopping by, but hopefully you enjoyed Disneyland today.
Yes.
Yeah, Dana and I have been chatting a little bit. I think we're going to be at Disneyland at the same time. So if we can connect, we're going to try and figure it out.
That's right. You're going to be going on vacation.
Yeah, I fly first thing in the morning. No rest here. We call it a day today at the end of the day. Tomorrow I'm on a plane for vacation for a couple weeks.
Well, hopefully it's a restful vacation.
Yes.
But Disneyland usually isn't. Disneyland's usually
no. It's only the first couple of days at Disneyland, and then we're going to a beach in Mexico.
Oh, nice.
That sounds great.
All right. Back to chat questions. Can widget update in the background or pull a URL? I need to mess around with them thinking about making a clicker or idle game as a widget. I think we have a little bit of possibly can update them via API call, but widgets can't pull or hit API calls themselves. So I think that the way it works is a widget talks to a skill, which talks to an API, right?
Yeah. So yeah, behind the scenes there is. So you can there's very little that you can do. You could pull different. There are different events, so you could actually listen for some sort of a timer event. That's what I do with the skill daily treasure. So the idea of daily treasure is once a day you get to open the treasure chest and see what's in it, and then I want to kind of play with the idea of something like Farmville or even like some of the early Facebook games where you had to then wait a certain amount of time before you could do that action again. And that was kind of what I was playing around with daily treasure. That all happens on the client side. So there's some sort of a countdown. So there is a way to use timing to be able to pull a, kind of execute some commands. One of those commands could be setting a value. Not a lot of people know that when you bind to values inside of APL, it's really like setting up variables, and then you can use commands to set those values. So you could use that to update like what a URL is, maybe for something like adding a random number at the end of some sort of a URL. There might be some things that you can do, but what I typically do in those cases is that I do some sort of a command from the client, from the widget, using inline execute user event and handle that on the back end, and then update the data store. And the act of updating the data store actually refreshes the binding, re-executes the data, data binding that you have to whatever that data was, and then you get the new thing. So you could have some, process, some cron job in the background periodically calling this API to update the data store, and your widget would update. And so there's lots of different things you could do, even if you can't necessarily call an API directly from the widget.
Oh, and thank you for linking in the chat some of the document about the data store. Very useful. Yeah, I like skills and games like that kind of build that little daily habit. It's a good way to retain users, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of some of the things that I've been experimenting with. Getting a little bit more ambitious. I'm creating one now, kind of in the beginning stages, so I won't reveal. But it's going to be kind of more of a mini game that you can all play within the widget. But you could have, I'm thinking about ways I could do multiple players, how I could do daily streaks, leaderboard stuff. All happening inside of the widget. So, or all being displayed and having the primary canvas be the widget. So I've got some ideas on how I can do that. And that hopefully would be something that would drive daily engagement as well.
Yeah, since we're talking from a developer standpoint, I know that anything that has me like with a streak, like I mean, I'm on Duolingo. I want to keep that streak button. I feel really disappointed if I drop it and have to use my streak freeze or whatever. The streak freeze is a great invention though, because there's some days when I completely space and forget to do it. But it's nice to have that like reinforcement of, oh, you're building a daily habit, because it's great for retention. It just brings your users back again and again, especially if there's like something new that will unlock at certain streaks or something like that. So great tip out there for anybody who's building even skills. If you can get people into that habit of like using your skill on a daily basis, even if it's just for a few minutes, it just helps build that habitual use.
Yeah, and if you already have some Alexa skills, I do encourage you to think about ways that widgets can help. Kind of the easiest thing to do would be to create a widget that has a button that launches your skill. I'm not necessarily a big fan of widgets that just do that, partly because I just know the current state of the widget gallery, and if we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of launcher widgets out there, then it just gets harder to find other widgets if they're not grouped in certain ways. But that is an easy way to get started, and it's without that much work at all. You could create a widget, because really a widget is mostly an APL screen for the widget, and then some manifest files and some other files that then get deployed with your code. You don't even necessarily have to do anything as far as keeping track if your widget was installed or uninstalled, unless you want to. So it's very easy to get started, and you can kind of start there, but then start thinking about what would somebody want to see that would entice them to go back in. So maybe, maybe there is something that updates in the background where it's showing you what the leaderboard is on this game, and then allows you to launch it. So now it's kind of like saying, oh, I've just dropped to number 3. I better get back into the game and get going on it, and then you can launch and start. So things that kind of go beyond that launcher and give you additional information, or maybe even lets you play a little bit of it to get you started, and then go back into the full skill experience. That's kind of the areas that I think are going to be the most exciting.
So what inspires you to make a widget? Where'd you get your ideas from for these widgets?
So part of it is just kind of saying, well, what do I want to understand about the technology, and kind of trying to figure out ways to push the boundaries. So, any of the widgets that I have out now would be, I want to see, how do I do an animation in a widget? Can I make that look good? How do I do kind of a refresh time or a countdown timer so you can only do usage every once? I'm just trying to think of like different things that might be fun things to explore, or maybe haven't been explored yet, to try to figure out how to do it. And some of it's just kind of thinking back about like, what did I have as a kid? I don't know. It's a long time ago. I'm like, I remember just shaking the magic 8 ball and asking it a question, right? Like, that would be really cool. That should be able to do that pretty easy with a widget. And so just pulling from my experience and kind of thinking of different things, and mostly to push the boundary and see where the technology can go.
Any sneak previews of what's next, what you're working on?
Oh, so I've got this game that I'm working on. I have a really good idea for something, but I don't know that I'm going to really have time to do it. I've made some advances on it. So I'm going to throw this idea out there for other people to do it. So what if you had a widget that really was just a canvas, and you had, I don't know, some sort of an app, but you could kind of design what would be on any given widget screen. The idea, I guess, here, let me back up. The bigger idea, bigger picture, is what if a widget incorporated with if this then that. So what if I clicked on a button in a widget and I could tie that to an if this then that trigger to do something? And what if I could do something with if this then that and call an API call, which would lay out, it wouldn't necessarily be APL, but maybe like APL components that would be a piece of text or a number or a progress bar, and you could create a screen that shows a little mini dashboard of something from if this then that. And so you could potentially have a pager, and there could be multiple different pages, so you could then, it would auto cycle through, and you could say like, oh, here's my stock ticker, or here's my this or that, but that would all be incorporated within a component that you create for if this then that, and then now your widget is a blank canvas that you could display anything you want on it, and when you click on it, you could do anything you wanted with it, and then multiple instances of that same widget on the device or across multiple devices in your same household could have different views or different things. So that's kind of the bigger idea. If anybody's really interested, we can chat offline, and I can brain dump all my crazy ideas.
Hey, where can we find you to chat offline? Where's the best place? Are you on the community Slack?
So I am on the community Slack, yes. You can find me on Twitter at Mark Tucker is probably the place that you could get me the best, but there or the community Alexa community Slack. Both of those places would be good places.
That should be right? Just Mark Tucker on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's what's one spot. He's pretty active on there. Or you can find him on the Slack potentially if you want to chat questions about. I see some great comments about this in the chat. I will give you 50% commissions, says Coltula. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
You share ideas.
I even have an idea. I've already prototyped some APL as far as creating these little, what I would call like mini components, visual components that you could then put together to create one of these screens that would show on a widget. So I've even got a head start if anybody wants to pick it up.
I love this comment too from Maliro. A Tamagotchi widget would be so cool. Do you remember Tamagotchi?
Yeah.
Did you ever have one on your keychain, Amanda?
You know what? I did have one. I don't think I carried it around everywhere. I think I just kind of didn't pay attention to it for like a week and then gave up on it. I don't know.
Yeah, so Tamagotchi, or you could have a plant where you have to water it so often, or the plant grows, or it starts to wilt if you don't. That could be cool.
Do Neopets? Am I dating myself for Neopets? It's a similar idea, right? You have like a little digital pets. We used to have this one. This is like a billion years ago, like Windows 3.1 stuff, where it was like a cat, and the cat would run around your desktop. I think it was called Pets with a Z, and the cat would like run around your desktop and like bat yarn and stuff.
Yeah.
Can we have a widget that's just like a little virtual cat that you have to play, that you can play with and tap and stuff? That'd be really fun. I think people.
Yeah, that would be fun. I've also thought about. I like the kind of the visual of the Star Trek computer. Whenever you show that with the kind of, I don't remember. There's an official name for what that design is, but I could see some different components being there. I'm even interested with this idea of where you could have multiple of these components and you can put those widgets next to each other. So then your whole widget gallery looks like it's a Star Trek computer, and one's like here's the warp drive information, and here's the shields, and just kind of for those big Star Trek fans, they could have their whole widget panel be Star Trek.
I'm just thinking of Alexa. It really is the future of the Star Trek computer, because they always say computer and they talk to it, right? You could even set your wakeboard to be computer if you want.
Yep.
And remember the movie when he's like, "Oh, this is so quaint," and he talks into the mouse.
Yeah, Scotty talking to the computer with the mouse. How quaint.
Yeah, because that's so funny. Computer. That's what that takes me back. So we'll just take a look at the chat real quick. Oh yeah, we're talking about sharing some contact info, cats. You need a few Alexa skills to work together. Yeah, there's some challenges there, but I think they could be doable.
Yeah, I've even thought about is there a way where you can do 2 or 4 widgets that you put together, and you can then kind of say configure each of them to say this is where the space is, and then something happens. It's kind of like putting 4 monitors together, but putting multiple widgets together to do something. And so it takes up this bigger space. I don't know. Just crazy ideas. I don't know if they're really
true. It could be the same skill with multiple widgets too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way you could go about doing it. Very, very cool. So let's change gears a little bit for the last part of the show. I want to talk about your podcast that you've been doing.
Oh, okay.
It's called Two Voice Devs, right?
It is. So Ellen Furstenberg and I started this.
Hi,
Ellen. Oh, is Ellen on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we started this a number of years ago. We just recorded episode 150. So it's just been fun. It's we met a little bit through Voice Lunch, and then kind of connected once online, and decided we'd just try this podcast thing and see if we can get to 10 episodes. And here we are years later, and just have a fun time every week talking about voice content. And I can kind of bring the Alexa perspective, and he could bring the Google perspective. And now we're looking at AI and how that's affecting things. And so there's just lots of fun things that we get to talk about.
Very, very cool. You want to hear more in-depth conversation? I actually had that one up on the screen. So if you want to check that out, there's tons of episodes. How long have you been doing that show?
So I guess we're coming up on, was it 3 years? So yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
it's not just on YouTube, or I could also get the podcast version.
Yes, exactly. It's YouTube or through where you get your podcast. Just Two Voice Devs.
Cool.
Amazing.
I'm a big listener on the car.
This leads off to another story, but you guys did an awesome little bit over the holidays where you had everybody kind of contribute to a 12 days of Alexa or 12 days of voice. And it was really fun. They had a bunch of folks basically sing their small part of 12 days of Christmas, but it was done. You had a bunch of great faces from the community, and that was just that kind of thing doesn't just happen, right? Like there has to be a community that loves this stuff enough to want to generate that kind of content. And I just thought that was so cool. And I was just thinking about an idea I've had for literally ever, and I've certainly mentioned it on this show a couple of times, but as I'm departing, I leave it to all of you to make this happen because I would love to see it. But the idea of doing an Alexa voice scavenger hunt where you start someplace, there's a starter skill someplace, and it gives you some kind of hint or clue or something that leads you to like the widget in Mark's skill. And then the widget in Mark's skill says, oh, the next clue is over here, right? And you're passing people off, not within the skill, but they have to like solve a puzzle or go for a clue or go to a website or whatever.
Yeah.
But the idea is to keep jumping into all of these individual skills so that you create this scavenger hunt kind of thing. I think that would just be such a cool concept. They're hidden intents that people wouldn't find otherwise. Man, I'd love to see that happen.
Oh, that would be really fun. Yeah.
It reminds me of like the old alternate reality games, like where you'd have to solve a puzzle on a website to like find the clue word to like type into a URL and type a password or something like that. You could do that all with voice. You could have like solve the riddle and then figure out what the secret code phrase is to unlock the next step.
I did a very small version of this that I controlled the whole thing at a conference. I did an on-site scavenger hunt where you just use the Alexa app on your phone, and I took you throughout the entire conference venue. And the first 50 people that found me got an Echo Dot. So it was a conference that accommodated families. So there were a lot of like spouses and children that were participating as well. But they had such a fun time doing it. And I just had hidden signs all over the building. And if you found a sign and it wasn't the time for you to find that sign, it would just say, oh, no, you aren't at the beginning, because I was keeping track of user stats and all that. Yeah. The first step of this puzzle is over here. Go there and find the first one, and then you can go on. So you couldn't like skip ahead or just guess words.
Were you hiding? Is that what you were doing? You were hiding somewhere in the conference?
Well, no. I mean, you could come find me. I was just sitting in a hallway, but the last clue told you where I'd be sitting.
Oh, okay.
If you didn't come up to me and say the appropriate phrase, then you clearly didn't know why I was sitting there.
You needed the passphrase.
Yep.
Very, very cool. Just curious to know, any sample videos, blogs on generating Alexa skill code using ChatGPT? I think this is a good question for Mark, because I'd like to know if you've done any of that.
I've done some experimenting. This is ChatGPT doesn't know a lot about APL, but I have been able to create. I was doing some project with like adaptive cards. Which is, I think, something that I think it's kind of an open source initiative. But I was doing something, so I had like a JSON sample of adaptive cards, and I actually asked ChatGPT to create APL for that. It did a decent job. It did an okay job. It could get you started. But have I ever used ChatGPT to interrogate, kind of ask questions about maybe a new service I was learning about AWS? Absolutely. And one of the things I love about using that as opposed to just looking at the documentation is that I get to ask the questions in the order that I'm thinking about it. So I ask a question and I read something and I'm like, I wonder about that. So I can ask like another in-depth question. So I kind of like this chat directed learning when you learn a new subject, or it's like, hey, I've got this in JavaScript. How would you write this in TypeScript, or things like that? So I've done that.
It lets you do your queries in more of a natural language as they come to you versus like trying to figure out how to make a search engine understand that question.
Yeah.
There's a whole new skill to like learning search engine manipulation, which we all had to learn how to Google properly, how to use a search engine properly. And now it's like how to use a chatbot properly, how to ask it the right question to get the answer that you hope to get is a different skill set, but similar, but different.
Yep.
I think Jeff's mentioned like another great use is maybe asking for alternative phrasings of different things. So if you're like randomizing a response in your skill.
Yeah, when you're writing speech for your skill, you don't want to have the user hear the same thing over and over. So if you're building a library of similar utterances to fill in that spot and to make it feel a little more natural as a conversation, I've just asked ChatGPT, like, hey, give me 20 versions of this sentence.
Yeah.
And it'll generate it for me. And they're beautiful. And you can honestly just cut and paste them right into your data. It works really well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely ways that AI is going to make designing and developing easier in the future. So I think there's there could be some scare out there like, oh, AI is coming for your job, but I think AI really can enhance what you're doing.
I prefer to see it as a tool, like anything else, as a helper. We use right now. You might just look on GitHub to see if you can find sample code, but they kind of skims that for you and gives you some different advice.
Yeah. I mean, my opinion is, as a developer, anything I use that is beyond something like Notepad are tools that I am using to make my development faster and more efficient. Mm-hmm. And so I see all of this LLM technology as just another tool in the toolbox. And there's times where it's useful. There's times where you need to really refine the responses that you're getting. But I think the one of the biggest limitations, and it was just chatted about in the conversation here, is around latency. Right. If you want to use technology like this, I don't know that voice is a number one application for it, at least in today's state, because it can take so long to get that content back to you.
Yeah. And we've learned that like 2 seconds seems like an eternity when you're waiting for a voice response to come back. So that's one of the things that we've been, kind of conditioned with this voice world. Is just how long it takes and to get good answers back, and whether that kind of bogs down the conversation or the interaction.
And to be clear, like, it doesn't take a long time. It just takes longer than you would want to respond with a voice device. That's all.
Yeah, like even 3 or 4 seconds feels like a super long time if you're waiting for a response. And I know that if I set my timer and it doesn't immediately set it, I'm like, oh, did it hear me? If there's like even a little pause.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a little pause. So that's enough to make me go, oh, wait. Oh, okay. So
I was going to say, so this is a little bit of a throwback, but many, many years ago, I wrote a book on Windows Phone development. Oh, wow. And I used an example in that book that I constantly refer back to. But I was trying to see what I could do to make a user pay attention when their phone is in their pocket. And so I built a sample demo, and I had it vibrate in your pocket for 3 seconds at like the full vibration setting you could do. And what I found is 3 seconds is long enough for you to recognize that your phone is vibrating, reach into your pocket, pull it out, and say, why won't it stop vibrating? Like 3 seconds is forever. And so when we think about taking 5, 7, 10 seconds to respond, that's a very long time.
Yeah, and I think they're going to get faster. I think models are going to get smaller, but still be good, or processing is going to improve so that things will be faster. I have no idea how LLMs are going to affect Amazon, or specifically Alexa, in the future, or what's developing skills, if that's even what will still exist at that point in time. But I am interested in kind of what that's going to eventually look like, how Amazon will or will not incorporate LLMs into Alexa, and how developers will be able to code for that.
Well, we're almost out of time, so I know I asked you about what widget you're working on, but like, what's next for you in general? Like, what else is exciting in your world?
Oh, I'm going to continue to explore AI and kind of see where that's going. I've got some projects that I'm working on kind of on my own, with some like custom voice assistants or even just custom chatbots, and trying to incorporate LLMs into those more. So that's one of the things I'm exploring. Got a couple of widget ideas I think I want to explore. I've got some existing skills. Snatch word is one of them that's kind of in need of an update. So I'm going to look at that, see what else I can do with that skill. So it's just, I've got some fun side projects when I find some time to work on them.
Cool.
Snatch words. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've always been a big fan of some Snatch word, at least the mechanism behind it, right? Okay. And so for any of you that haven't played that, it sounds like Mark might work on an update to that. So check it out. It's cool. It's a great concept for a game that I could see translating to other things.
Yeah, describe the premise of Snatch word. Snatch word is you literally steal people's words. It's very easy to understand.
Yeah, any word that you can say, any word that you can get Alexa to understand is a word that you can own, or at least temporarily, like you can check out with like a library card. So when you snatch a word, then it's yours for a week, and there's a little window where you can renew it. But if you forget to renew it, somebody can snatch it from you. and the points that you get for the word are based on different points for different letters. So like longer words, like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is one of the ones I snuck in there. That's worth a lot of words, but also you get points based on its popularity. So every time somebody, the three actions you can do is you can search for a word to see, if somebody owns it or not. You can snatch it, or you can renew it. So anytime somebody looks for a word, it also increases its point value because it's a more popular word. So when you're able to snatch a word that's more popular, then you get more points as well. And then there's a weekly leaderboard.
Test the user's vocabulary and creativity.
Yes. And it's also kind of less important now since Google's actions are going away, but it was kind of I was trying to make it be like a massive multiplayer type game because these words exist in this whole ecosystem. So the leaderboard includes people from other countries that right now it's limited to English, but other countries that speak English, and it could also be playing against somebody that was on Google at the time. So it was kind of like, if you can do voice wherever, you can play this game and play in the same group of everybody else.
Crossplay, as they say in the video game world. Crossplay, like for fighting games and stuff. Very cool. Well, I think that just about wraps up our show today. Gosh, it's been so great having you on the show.
Thank you.
Jeff, any parting thoughts?
Parting thoughts. I will tell everyone, I know that I'm leaving Alexa and Amazon, but I am a big believer in everything that's happening here. Voice technology, LLMs, everything that you're seeing kind of come together in this world of AI. I am going to be cheering from the sidelines and playing my own games as well. I'm going to a startup, and at that startup, we're going to be doing a lot of very cool things with a lot of this similar technology. So not specifically voice, but a lot of the other stuff. And I guess my only parting thought, this will be a callback for those of you that have been around here a little while, is that I'd like for each of you to discover whether or not you would want to fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses.
Mark, I really do
thank everybody for the time and energy you guys put into coming to the show and communicating and sharing your ideas and excitement with all of us. It has been my absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad I got to be on this journey.
Thank you. And I'm going for the duck-sized horses, I think.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I think I am too.
They're fragile. We could do it. Let's team up.
But one huge duck scares me.
That does terrify me. Scary. Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure. And we will see you next week. I'll be on the show. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here. So next week, next Tuesday, same time, same channel. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.